Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 254. Well, hello there. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. For those of you who are brand new here, my name is Tess Wicks. I am a financial coach turned business coach for my fellow money coaches, founder of Wander Wealthy, and host of this podcast, where we talk all about the business of money coaching. We hope to help you become a better coach, as well as understand the world of growing an online business, from the marketing to the sales to everything in between. And this week, we're doing a little bit of that in-between stuff, or maybe that pre-requirement stuff for building your business and talking about goal setting. Now, here's the deal. I know that last week was technically the first full week of the new year, but honestly, this is my first week in 2022 in the podcast studio, if you could even call where I am right now a studio. And I figured, maybe I missed the boat on doing a goal setting episode the first week of the new year, but also I feel like maybe that's overplayed. I feel like maybe a majority of us got busy and we might have done some goal setting, but some of us might not have. And here's the deal. My husband and I sat down and did goal setting last weekend, which was after the first full week of the new year. And I want this to serve as a reminder to you that it's never too late to set your goals. And also we're going to talk about this, but maybe also don't set a full year's worth of goals and make a full year's game plan for achieving those goals and never think about them ever again. And B, you didn't miss the boat just because you didn't start your New Year's resolution or start taking action towards your new year goals in the first week of the new year. You didn't miss the boat because you didn't start working out on a Monday. You didn't miss the boat because now you're midway through the month and you haven't tracked your finances, right? We all know that it's never too late to start if you're willing to start today or willing to start tomorrow, right? If we kind of throw our arms up in the air and go, oh, well, I didn't do it and now I missed the first, or I missed getting started on a Monday, or I missed, any of those times of the year, the week, the month where it feels like the appropriate time to start, you didn't miss the boat. You can start now, or you can start today. You get to decide when you start. So that's what I wanted to share. And I figured, I didn't do a whole New Year's goal setting, year in review kind of episode near the end of the year because I honestly didn't think of it. And I was just batching content, having a good time, getting ready to take some time off. But I figured it's never too late. And for those of you who haven't set goals, or maybe you already have for 2022, but you also are open to a new way of approaching goal setting and thinking about how you take a goal and break it down into actionable, bite-sized steps that you can take so that you make that goal and achieving that goal inevitable, then this is the episode for you. So to be fully transparent, my husband and I do goal setting together, first and foremost. Even business goal setting, it's a holistic process for us. So I'm going to share with you what that is. But we also didn't set our goals at the end of 2021 or even right at the beginning of 2022. We did it last weekend, which was already a full week into the new year. And quite honestly, it was because we had visitors and we didn't have time. But what we were able to do is, again, drop the whole idea that everything has to start on the first of the month or the first of the year or on that Monday. Instead, we just decided, okay, it's Sunday. We don't have a lot of other things going on, and this is the perfect time to commit to actually going through, doing our year in review, looking forward and deciding where do we want to go this year and what's the game plan for carrying that out and sticking to it. Now, quick little just correction from what I said earlier is that yes, we had time on Sunday, but it was also because we made the time. We really do prioritize doing this work together. And whether you have a partner or not, it is so important to prioritize sitting down and making the time to do this work, to reflect on the past, audit where you're at now, and set those purposeful, value-based goals for the future. I can say if you do have a partner, bring them in this process with you. Oftentimes, I'm like a little bit of a weird person. I'm the person who's really always dipping my toe in the personal development space. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I feel like as entrepreneurs, we tend to do that. We read all the personal development books and kind of get inundated with all these different ways to set goals and do things. And sometimes the things that you introduce to your partnership can seem silly, or maybe you think they're going to think it's silly. But I can say that this is one of the most rewarding and just wonderful bonding experiences that my partner and I do on a regular basis. So if you do have a partner and they're not so much into it, invite them to just try it out and bear with you. And even if some aspect of it might seem silly, just go with it and treat it as more of something just to do for fun and do for entertainment. But you'll often see, and what I experienced was that my partner and I really became closer through that process. And it was also a realignment opportunity for us as well. And I think this is doubly as important when you are an entrepreneur, and whether your partner is as well or they're not, and maybe especially if they're not, you're able to get on the same page and really discuss and reflect holistically, how career might be impacting life and other aspects of life, or maybe career right now isn't as important to either of you and you really want to make sure you're putting time and effort into other aspects of your life as well. So that's just kind of a quick side note is if you have a partner, do this with them, prioritize, make that time. And if you don't have a partner, still prioritize and make this time, and maybe consider doing it with a friend, because I just think that the opportunity to take that next step and discuss where you're at, especially when you are auditing your kind of past year and how you're feeling in various aspects of life, when you can discuss that with someone else, it really opens you up and allows you to think further, what can I do? And you're able to reflect off of each other, kind of what you've observed of each other maybe over the past year, and now what their opportunities are for going into this next year. So just a little kind of additional tip, make that time and consider finding someone to do this process with, no matter, who they are in your life. All right. With that said, what you came here for is to know about our new year routine for goal setting. And I have a key process that I take my clients through, and I'm actually going to introduce that to you today because that's exactly what my husband and I use at the top of the year. And it's called setting your 3x3 goals, and using a tool that is fairly common in life coaching called the Wheel of Life. So I'm going to introduce that to you. But before we did this, when we sat down, we made the time, we made a ton of coffee. Before we sat down to do that, I actually introduced something new to our kind of annual goal setting. And this is the thing that I was like, all right, you might think this is really silly. And I was telling my husband this, but I was inviting him to just play along because I thought it could be fun. And I just wanted to see what it would be like. And that was introducing a tarot card reading into our goal setting routine as just an opportunity for reflection. Now, for those of you who don't know, tarot cards or a tarot deck is literally a deck of cards. And let me just say, I'm a complete novice at this. I just got my beginner tarot deck and I read straight from the book. But a tarot deck is made up of actually traditional Napolitano cards. I didn't realize that, but when I pulled it out, my husband was like, wait, these are Napolitano cards from Naples. And they're actually most likely not from Naples, but they were brought to Naples by very, very ancient merchants, traveling merchants or something. But it represents this kind of traditional deck of cards, plus there are cards on top of it. And essentially all the cards have kind of different meanings. So depending on whether it's a certain suit or a certain number in the cards, or the cards just have lots of different meanings. So like masterful tarot readers know all the meanings and kind of have those memorized and can make connections for the person who is getting the reading done for them. For me, what I do is I use these cards, and each card, since it does have a meaning, I allow that meaning to just help me reflect in areas of life where maybe I'm not thinking, and be more reflective about, what's going on or what I can be focusing on moving forward. So for those of you who are fully unfamiliar or not kind of into the woo-woo side of some things, you might know of tarot decks from the movies where someone goes and sees a fortune teller and then they use the deck to tell their fortune. For me, again, it's more of a reflective exercise. And what we did with the tarot deck was we each pulled 2 cards, and one card represented our past year of 2021, and the next one represented our year moving forward of 2022. And again, it's really like the 2021 card allowed us to kind of reflect whatever we read from it. We just made connections back to kind of our year in the past, what went on, and allowed us to kind of think a little bit more deeply, or think about an aspect of life that we don't always think about. Maybe we don't think we need to work on that area of life, but now we're allowed, because of this prompt, to think through it. And then the 2022, again, it's allowing us to kind of reflect, but also visualize moving forward, maybe an area of life that we should be paying more attention to or that could use our attention. So it was a fun thing, but what it really did, I didn't really expect anything to come out of it, other than just having fun and my husband thinking that I'm a total goof. It was actually some really good conversation, and it opened up an opportunity for us to talk about things that we don't always talk about, because again, we might not think they're as important, but this kind of pinpointed that and said, hey, here's an opportunity to talk about this thing. So we really ended up enjoying that. And that's why I wanted to mention this, the goofy thing that I invited into our New Year's routine was doing the tarot. And it's something that, like I said, I do enjoy doing it, whether I'm doing a morning journaling session and I need just a prompt to kind of think through or reflect on, or maybe a monthly reset session. And then again, I thought, why not bring it into this just as a little extra special thing? So once we did the tarot, which of course, if you don't have tarot cards, you definitely don't need to go out and buy them. If you think, oh, that would be something fun, or you want to introduce something else, go for it. I mean, I think that, again, it's just all about making this a fun, reflective process. And I'm sure there's online decks that maybe you can randomly shuffle and draw from. I haven't looked it up, but I'm sure there's some sort of online tarot type of thing where you can randomly select a card and read the meaning of it. So even if you didn't want to go out and buy a tarot deck, but you still think, oh, that might be interesting, I'm sure you could find something online. Okay, then we did the Wheel of Life. So the Wheel of Life is an exercise that I originally learned from amazing money mindset coach Denise Duffield Thomas. She was on this podcast many, many years ago, and I didn't realize how big of a deal she was until a while after. And then I was like, oh my gosh, dang, I really interviewed this high level person in the online space, but she is amazing. And I read one of her books a couple years ago, and she introduced the Wheel of Life, which I think exists in the life coaching circle a lot more broadly, but I find that it is such a powerful tool to help you just do a quick audit of where you're at today with various quadrants or, slices of your life. Because even though, this is a business podcast and I talk a lot about building your online coaching business, your business is just one piece of the pie. And it's important when you're setting goals, I think oftentimes us entrepreneurs just want to set goals about business, just want to make everything about our business because it probably is a really important part of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. I mean, of course it is. And it also feels super, super important, but we can't forget that there are other really important parts of our life out there that might be needing some TLC. So I'm going to auditorily walk you through how to draw your wheel of life. So if you're sitting here and you have like a notebook with you, you can do this exercise along with me. So what you're going to do, you want a blank piece of paper and you're going to just draw like a dot in the center of the paper. And then you're going to draw a big circle around that dot. You want the circle to be like 2 to 3 inches away from the dot on all sides. So it's going to be a big circle, 2 to 3 inches out. If it's centimeters, I don't know, like 5 centimeters maybe out from that inner dot. So there's a big circle and then in the middle is a dot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to connect from the dot to the top of the circle and the bottom of the circle. So a straight line down from the top to the bottom of the circle through that middle dot, and then left to right. And so then you'll have basically a plus sign with 4 quadrants, but then you want to draw an X now. So breaking it up even further, essentially the goal is to have 8 slices of this pie that we've just created. So in summary, you're drawing a pizza or a pie that has 8 slices. Okay, then it doesn't really matter where the labels go, but we're going to label each of these pie slices. So it doesn't matter in what order or anything because all that matters is that you know which pie represents what area of your life. But we are going to start with money, the money pie. So money/finance, basically we're talking about kind of your financial situation. So that's going to represent one piece of the pie. The second one is going to be career or business, obviously your job, whatever you're doing usually to make money, or maybe you're doing it as more of like a life mission, but it's what you do, right? What you do with the majority of your time. Career, business, stay-at-home mom, whatever it is that you are working on. Then personal growth. Personal growth or development will be the third slice of the pie, so working on your inner self. The fourth slice of the pie will be fun and enjoyment, so hobbies, things like that. The fifth slice will be friends and family. The sixth slice will be love and romance. The seventh slice will be giving back, volunteerism, just like kind of general giving. And the eighth slice is going to be health and vitality. You could think about nutrition, fitness, kind of anything that falls into that category. So now that we have all of our slices labeled, we have 8 different kind of areas of life. What you're going to do now is you're going to kind of rank how you feel. And I would think about this on kind of a fulfillment level. So, how fulfilled are you? How content do you feel? And maybe you want to be beyond content. So maybe content isn't the best word, but like how, fulfilled do you feel in each of these areas? So what you're going to do is if that dot that we drew in the very center of the page represents 0, and the outside of the circle represents on any side, right? The entire large circle that we drew around represents 10. You're going to put a dot within each pie slice for how fulfilled you feel regarding that area of life. So if I'm looking at my money slice, right, my money and finance, obviously a dot within this slice that's closer to the center dot is going to mean that I'm not feeling good about my money. So it might be a 1, a 2, a 3. And then as you get further out towards the edge of this circle, if I'm feeling good about my money, like I'm on top of the world, I'm definitely hitting all the marks, I'm probably going to draw the dot on the edge of the circle in this specific pie slice. Okay? So you want to do that for each of your pie slices, each of your life categories, and just take a moment to reflect on it. Reflect on each one and then draw your dot. And then once you're done with that process, and you can take as long as you need to go through and kind of audit each of these life categories, what I like to do then is connect these dots. So if my money is at 7 and health and vitality is at 9 and giving back is at a 2, I'm not feeling really good about how generous maybe I've been to date, then it's going to look, I'm going to connect these from the 7 in my money to the 9 in my health and vitality to the 2 in my giving back. I'm going to connect all of them all through these 8 pie slices. And then what you're going to see is a shape that you've created within this pie, right? And you have the big circle on the outside and then the shape that's been created by connecting your dots on the inside. And what you'll see is, technically what we drew should represent a circle, but if we have a lot of dots that are a little bit in further towards that center dot, well, then our circle is a little bit wonky, right? And the goal here now is to think about this as a way of how can we get our life more fulfilled? So this is especially helpful, this exercise, if you're having a hard time determining like which areas of life to focus on first, or which areas of life you really need to work on or would like to work on. So if you do this work, you can start to see which areas are closer to that center dot that you would like to push out further towards the edge of the circle, right? Which areas that are maybe at a 2 that do you want to work on, do you need to work on to get closer to a 10? So what you can do is now that you have, your dots connected, you can kind of see where you're at now compared to where you'd like to be. And here's the deal. You might never be at a 10 with anything because maybe you're one of those people that's extra hard on yourself, or you're just there's always something to improve. So don't feel bad if nothing is at a 10 because honestly, all of this is relative, right? Compared to how willing we are to push something out to a 10. But also, you might be the type of person who just always sees that there's more growth to be had. So maybe you're going to, always be around a 7, but you still want to work on getting that out to a 10. Like there's still something you want to work on. That's okay too. But what I want you to do is looking at this kind of map or wheel of life that we've created, I want you to first look at the 3 lowest numbers and go ahead and give the dots that you put there representing the lowest numbers. And if you haven't numbered these, you can also go ahead and number each of the dots to further allow yourself to see like what do these dots represent in a numerical form. And then that will further allow you to determine which ones are the lowest, which ones am I the least fulfilled in? And potentially those are the ones that need the attention right now. Okay, so circle the 3 lowest and then draw an arrow out from that low point on the pie out to the edge of the pie. Because the goal is to get these to expand out, to increase in their fulfillment number. And that's what we want to be focusing on right now. Okay, so pick those 3 numbers. And if you need like a prompt or an exercise to do, what my husband and I like to do is we go through all of the pieces of the pie, right? We go through and we say, okay, for me, friends and family, I'm at a 10. And here's why I'm at a 10. I'm at a 10 because I have found a community where I live now. And I am staying in touch with my family and I'm really prioritizing making time to call them and go out and see them. And so I really feel that I'm doing as much as I can and I'm feeling really good about that as well. Let's say personal growth. I'm at a 5. I'm feeling pretty reflective, but I've definitely not been in the habit of doing my morning routine on a regular basis, or I haven't read, a personal development book in a while. And so that's something that I definitely want to work on more. So go through each of your quadrants. And if you're doing this with a partner, kind of talk through why you're where you're at. And I think this is important because not only are you going to be reflecting on like, why are you at a 2 or a 3 or a 5 in some of these areas, you also get to reflect on why you're at a 10 or a 9 or an 8 in some of the others. And so make sure you're reflecting on the good and where improvement could be had, because goal setting just shouldn't be focusing on where you're, not performing, or where you feel like you're failing, or where you really feel like you need to work. It should also be reflective of what went well and how can we make sure that we apply, what went well in this area of life to maybe other areas of life. So it's really supposed to be a holistic exercise. And then the goal is, again, to get that whole circle as whole as possible. So now we have our kind of wonky circle, we're trying to push it out. So again, we're trying to make that holistic as well. Once you've gone through and you've kind of reflected on each of those pies of life, pieces of the pie, then I want you to, again, pick 3 areas. Now, usually this, should represent the 3 areas where you feel are the lowest, but you also might have an area, let's say you have a 2 and a 3 and a 4, but you have also an area that's a 5 that you're really wanting to work on. Well, only pick 3, but it's totally okay if you need to give something more attention, even though it's not the lowest number or it's not in the bottom 3. But do pick 3 areas where it would make the biggest impact on your life and you would really feel that holistically everything will improve. And then we're going to focus on setting goals and creating habits around those 3 areas. So this is what I call a full goals and values alignment exercise, because it's allowing you to obviously set goals, but we're setting goals in a holistic way and identifying when you go through and you say, this is why I'm at a 7 or this is why I'm at a 2, you can also identify is this a value for me? Are friends and family a value for me? And if I'm at a 3, I really need to work on that because I'm not feeling good about that. So you're really able to kind of pull it all in and make it super holistic and productive, I think. So once you have identified your 3 areas, we're going to focus on those first and for now. Goal setting can be super overwhelming. If you try to set goals in all areas of your life, there's a good chance that, you'll lose steam, you'll lose focus, and it just feels like it's too much to juggle all of it. So instead, really just focusing on 3 areas and then just setting a maximum of 3 goals within each of those 3 areas allows it to feel a lot more maintainable. So I want you to pick those 3 areas and then we're going to set goals. Now, here's a couple tips I want to share with you before you set goals for these areas. One is that we're only focusing on the next 3 months. So something that my husband and I learned is we did this exercise at the beginning of last year, but then we didn't revisit it. And we looked back at our goals from last year, and some things we were able to maintain, but other things just kind of fell off. And some things we achieved, but then we didn't set new goals. So it's really important to actually do this multiple times. Now, I revise a lot of times my business goals on a quarterly basis, but when it comes to these holistic parts of our lives and just doing this as a general bonding exercise, but also for you to personally reflect, I think you need to create the time to do that on a more regular basis. So this should be done every 3 months. If not 3 months, every 6 months. At the very least, have a midway point where you reassess and, you do the full wheel of life again. And then you also determine what your new goals are going to be going forward. And, some of that might be a goal that you set from the last time you did this because, skipped your mind and you haven't really thought about it very much, or you just didn't have the time and now you want to make it a priority. Other things are going to be brand new goals, and that's great too. But it's really good to get in the habit of just marketing on your calendar, honestly. Like, put it on the calendar that you're going to do another goal setting session, another wheel of life and value assessment, and make it happen, because A, it's fun. It's a really great bonding experience if you do it with a partner, but B, it's also very productive. Especially as entrepreneurs, it is so hard to even think past the next 90 days. And so much can change in that time that you will be doing yourself a service to actually revisit this on a more regular basis. The other thing that my husband brought up is, and I'm sorry, I don't know who said this, but he brought up that if we're creating new habits and if we're, using these categories to maybe set a goal, but maybe the goal requires a more regular daily habit, to do it and determine the habit that you're going to do that's not going to take you more than 2 minutes each day. So I find this really insightful and also very helpful, because if something takes 2 minutes, you can absolutely do it. There's no excuse, right? One of my goals, right? I have personal development as an area that I want to be working on. And one of my goals is simply to just wash my face every night and floss every night, right? Those are things that I just want to get into a more regular habit. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit grungy sometimes and I skip it because I'm tired and I just want to go to bed. And honestly, those two things combined don't take more than 2 minutes. So this is a perfect example of something that I know I can do. And even if I don't want to do it, or if I'm not kind of intuitively thinking to do it and it hasn't become a habit yet, I can still convince myself to do it. Like, it's the most painless thing ever. Just make it happen and then you can go to bed. So that's a really good tip, especially if you're trying to make something a habit rather than setting a more longer term goal. So something that might be a more longer term goal would be like, become an expert on, let's say you want to build your money coaching business and really be kind of a student loan expert. Become an expert on student loans would be a longer term goal. Now, we'd want to quantify or make it measurable so we know when you've achieved that, but we can do that in a certain way, right? Of thinking, okay, 3 months from now, I want to be able to, speak for 10 minutes about student loans without not knowing what to say or without feeling like I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so then how do we get there? And then you can back out and determine, okay, that's our kind of 3-month goal. Now, how can we create specific tasks or habits that we want to develop so that you're inevitably going to get to that goal? So then maybe you have one more thing as a task or a goal that falls under your career or business category. And again, we're just using this example of becoming an expert on student loans, where it's daily you spend 30 minutes researching, reading an article, learning about the entire student loan world with like forgiveness and applying and all of that good stuff. So you can create not only kind of time-bound goals of 3 months from now, I can talk about student loans for 10 minutes straight without second-guessing myself or feeling doubtful of my expertise. And then how do we get there? Well, I can set a habitual kind of task-oriented goal that is 30 minutes every day, Monday through Friday. I spend that time researching, learning something new, watching a video, just learning about the world, the market, the industry of student loans. So that's what I would do. Now, I will be honest. Some of my areas, I only have 2 things. I didn't do the full 3. And if you're sitting there trying to think of 3 things to set for yourself in a category, you don't need 3. Maybe you only need 1, but really make it measurable, make it actionable so that you know what you need to do on a regular basis to inevitably get there. But no more than 3 things, because then I believe that can become overwhelming. And then we just have a long to-do list of things that isn't beneficial because we're going to feel overwhelmed and then not want to do them. So Make it easy to do, make it easy to implement, make it easy to schedule in your calendar, and then put in your calendar 3 months from now, if you're going to do this today, 3 months from now, a time to revisit this entire process so that you can reassess where you're at, reset some of those goals, reestablish some new habits. Hopefully the habits you've been working on the last 3 months became a habit already, so you can reestablish new habits and you can go from there. And this is how you actually inevitably and consistently improve and reach those goals, by setting tasks that you can actually accomplish on a regular basis and then revisiting this goal setting process regularly. One last thing, if you do have full year-long goals, break them down into milestones. So if you want to have your business up and running by the end of the year with 20 clients in your roster, okay, what can we do? What needs to happen in order to get there by the end of Q3 of this year? So by, September, October timing. Identify what that looks like. And then in order to get there, what do you need to have done by the midway point of this year? And then in order to get there, what do you need to have done by 3 months from now, by the end of Q1? So if you can do goal setting like that, you're going to be so much better off than just saying okay, my goal is to have my business up and running with 20, clients on my roster. Well, that feels like a huge thing to accomplish. And if we need to focus on what do you need to do today and what do you need to do tomorrow, that's when we get confused and overwhelmed and have analysis paralysis, because it's a big, big goal that we haven't broken down into small things that will inevitably get us there. So do that work. And that's where I think having a coach come in to help you reverse engineer your goals and then hold you accountable to your goals is such a huge thing. So don't forget, the Wealthy Coach Blueprint is here as an option for you to build your money coaching business. You can head to wanderwealthy.com/blueprint to check it out. I am taking clients on as they come, so fill out the application and we will see if you are a good fit to join us in a round for you of one-on-one coaching with the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. wanderwealthy.com/blueprint. And that's it for today's New Year routine goal setting podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you need to check out the show notes, head to wanderwealthypodcast.com. And until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.